Hello and happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Discover with Spinati, a podcast where we talk about mainly about dental issues. Sometimes we also talking about motivation, but today we are motivating you to take care of your teeth, especially the ones that have very large fillings. And the question today that we're posing is, when do you need a crown, or do you even need a crown? And that is the question that we are posing because there's a lot of confusion, and I have that with my patients. There's a lot of confusion with regards to when do you actually need a crown and when do you not. So I pulled up this thing on Google so that you can see it as well. And I'm going to put my picture here. I'm going to show you some things. So when do you need a crown? You need a crown in several reasons. One of the biggest things that indicates the requirement for you to get a crown is when you have very large fillings. So when you have a filling, and if you can look at my mouse here on the right side of the screen, you can see here this tooth has a very large filling. I mean, it's questionable. It's around 50%. Anything larger than this, then that tooth is going to require a crown. Now, the reason I say that is because because this filling here crosses from this side to this side of the tooth, like it crosses the entire length of the tooth. And so now the tooth doesn't have much strength. So now you have a huge, huge propensity of getting either this part fractured or this part fractured. And if this fractures or this fractures below the gum line, which is right here, then you're going to lose the tooth more than likely, like this, for instance. So if you look at this one, you can see here how this filling, even though it doesn't span all the way across, but there is a fracture line here. And this, I see this constantly. This is what happens, is that the tooth actually fractures. And this I've seen countless amounts of times. Here's another example. Okay, another example, another tooth. So this is the exact same thing I'm telling you about with regards to a filling that spans all the way across the tooth. And so the tooth has nothing to hold it. So you have a cusp here. Cusp is just that tip of the tooth. There's another tip of the tooth, and there is nothing holding it. Amalgam, or the silver fillings, there is no bond to it. It doesn't bond to the tooth. And so there's nothing to hold it. Even if it was composite, the strength of the bond is not enough for the tooth to stay intact if there's a lot of forces with your bite. So that's what happens when you have a large filling. So you see here, this is a large filling. Soon enough, one of these cusps, or maybe both, is going to fracture. And I've seen it countless amounts of times. So this is the primary reason why, not root canals, crowns are recommended. Like here, for instance, you can see here, very, very large filling, huge large filling. This looks like a cavity here. And so this tooth here would be recommended for a crown, similar to these. Okay, so you'll see here, this is a huge, huge filling, larger than 60% of the tooth structure. Same thing with this one. This is a clear indication of getting crowns. If you have large decay, if your tooth has a lot of cavities, I mean, if you have large fillings, more than likely you're going to get cavities. And so the crowns are 100% recommended. If you have root canal treated teeth, so if the teeth have been root canal treated, then a crown is recommended. If the tooth is worn down severely, so if you have severe wear on your tooth and your tooth is, like, for instance, this gentleman right here, I mean, he doesn't have severe, he's got a little bit of wear. Okay, no, that's not a good indication. For this person here, what I would have done is I would have put this person into orthodontics instead of putting a slew of crowns on their teeth, but it depends on the person's preference. I mean, that's definitely something I wouldn't recommend because the teeth here look good. They just need to be realigned properly because you can see here the bite is off. So I would just recommend, like, for instance, here, there you go. This person right here completely ground down their teeth. And I see this all the time as well. This is from grinding. Okay, this is from literally grinding because the teeth haven't been meeting properly. As you can see here, the teeth are literally end to end. They're meeting like literally end to end. And so the person ground down their teeth. In order for them to rebuild their teeth, they have to put all the crowns. And another indication as to getting crowned, so that the person now can have proper chewing function and proper aesthetics as well. Now, the question is, and this is the $1,000,000 question. The question is what happens if you don't get a crown? What happens if you just leave it? Well, I mean, I kind of discussed it there, that if you don't get a crown, you are at a very, very higher risk of you getting a fracture and potentially losing the tooth. And you losing the tooth will more than likely then necessitate you getting a dental implant or a bridge, which adds the cost factor and adds the complexity of the treatment. So it's something that is much more preferred for you to crown a tooth than for you to risk it and then to see what happens, whether or not you get to keep the tooth or not, because that's not a path you want to go down. And the second thing is, if you don't replace, or if you don't put a crown on a tooth that has a large filling or it's root canal treated, you can get reinfection, right? If you can get a reinfected tooth, right? Let's say the tooth has been root canal treated, but it hasn't been, there's no crown on it. There's nothing to actually stop the bacteria from coming back in. Then you're going to get a reinfection. Again, I see this all the time. Another one is if the tooth has a very large filling. A very large filling means now you're inviting bacteria in these areas where the filling meets the tooth. And so then now you're going to get more cavities. Well, if the cavity is deep enough, it's in the root area, then the chances of us being able to save the tooth is incredibly low. And so then now you have an increased chance of losing the tooth, even if it's not fractured, simply by getting more cavities because of the large filling. So this here is actually, whether or not you need a crown, is actually one of the asked questions that we get. And so that's why, and it's one of those things that people always wonder about and say, okay, like, when do I need a crown? Do I need a crown now? Because a lot of people don't want to lose their teeth, right? Some people are much more risk averse than other people. And I mean, you put yourself in any category, but my recommendation is that if your dentist recommends for you to get a crown, don't delay. Otherwise, you are taking a very big risk. If you have any questions at all with regards to whether or not you need a crown or anything like that, please feed it to us. We're more than happy to answer them for you. Happy Tuesday. And as always, keep smiling.